Shabbat Shalom, my friends. A special shout out to the growing number of individuals who are joining our very, very special community. And a very special shout out to my friend Dalia Levy in Jerusalem, who joins our conversation every week. Hi, Dalia. And most importantly, a loving, caring shout out to all of those families and individuals who are grieving the loss of loved ones, who fear the outcome of the serious illness of loved ones, who are anxious about their own physical and psychological well-being, or who worry about what tomorrow will bring. I know. That very special shout out is to each and every one of us. Our Sedra is TZAV, Leviticus 6, verse 1 and following. This Shabbat is also Shabbat HaGadol, the Great Sabbath, the Shabbat that immediately precedes Passover. It is a day when over many centuries, rabbis have carefully taught their congregants the intricacies of the proper preparation for and celebration of Passover. Some say that this creates the longest Shabbat morning service of the year. That's great, probably true, but we'll address that at another time. What were some of those questions that rabbis would address on Shabbat HaGadol? Well, what about kitniot, foods that contain rice, corn, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, soybeans, peas, peanuts, lentils, and other legumes? Kosher for Passover, kitniot, or not? Most Ashkenazi rabbis rule against kitniot. Sephardic rabbis permit kitniot. Others follow whatever it was that their grandparents did. And some Ashkenazim declare themselves to be honorary Sephardim during the Passover season. Or, another question, can you use egg matzah at the Seder? Answer, no. What about using eggplant to substitute for an egg for the vegans around your table? Now, I have no authoritative answer for that, but somehow that feels totally right for me. Eggplant for eggs. I think that works. But this year, Shabbat HaGadol brings questions that haven't been considered since the Middle Ages and the bubonic plague. Rabbi Benjamin Lau, Benny Lau, a brilliant, charismatic Orthodox rabbi in Jerusalem, raises some of these new questions for this Shabbat HaGadol. For example, can we pray a full, unabridged service with Baruch Hu and the Shmona Esrei in the presence of a virtual minyan? Lau teaches that in Jewish law, pikuach nefesh, saving a human life, is a paramount concern. I think we all knew that. So we should not congregate now. We should not leave our homes now. If we cannot get safely and lawfully to a gathering of 10 other Jewish adults, Lau would actually say Jewish men, we should know that a virtual minyan is not a halachically accepted alternative. In Lau's words, it is impossible to define a group of people who have gathered for a virtual service via Zoom as a minyan, within which one could recite certain cornerstone prayers. But, Lau, a virtual minyan can permit the recitation of the mourner's Kaddish. Lau refers to the virtual gathering as a ke'ilu, as a kind of minyan. So it's okay. But watch carefully now, as Lau then moves on to find a way to expand this teaching. By the time Lau is done, he permits a virtual minyan as an acceptable setting for almost all prayers, so long as we are considered to be living during a catastrophe. And that's what we have right now. So what were Rabbi Lau's guiding principles? He, an Orthodox rabbi, he wrote, quote, Actually, quote the translation. As we face this pandemic with each passing day, more mourners are added to the worldwide Jewish community, mourners for whom it may be difficult to accept the possibility of not saying Kaddish at all. It is my hope that the guidelines we just referenced may provide a solution for those people and enable them to fulfill their communal prayer needs, even if it is by remote connection. Now, Lau continues, and as we approach Passover, it is imperative that we find ways to address the next impending need, how to alleviate the sense of loneliness and isolation of people who will find themselves alone for the Seder due to the need to stay home and shelter in place. Close quote. The Orthodox Rabbinate is divided on this topic. A group of Sephardi rabbis ruled 2 weeks ago that a virtual Seder is permitted during these terrifying times. Then both the Ashkenazi and Sephardi chief rabbis of Israel contradicted this position and ruled against the validity of a virtual Seder, even if the Zoom is connected before sundown and isn't touched at all during the full festival days. In Los Angeles here, a number of Orthodox rabbis joined in the position taken by the Israeli chief rabbis. How sad. For them, virtual Seders just don't count. On Thursday morning of this week, Rabbi Rachel Miller, who serves my former congregation in Atlanta, offered a brief Devar Torah during a Zoom conference call. Rabbi Miller referenced from our Sedra, Leviticus 6:6. A perpetual fire shall be kept burning on the altar. It shall not go out. Our task, she taught, as leaders of the Jewish community, is to never let the light of Torah go out. We must do whatever needs to be done to keep the Eish Tamid burning. Passover is a time in which many serious forces are at play. We remember that we once were slaves. We remember the power of our belief that we were chosen to be much more than one people among many. The Jewish people has a task, a mission. We gather in families and community just as our ancestors have done for 2,100 years. We sing old songs, we sing new songs, we remind ourselves by symbol and by text what our shared vision is of a world symbolized by the coming of Eliyahu. So Rabbi Miller asked, how do we keep that fire burning on the altar during the nightmare of coronavirus? She answered, we demonstrate the humanity of our tradition. We demonstrate that by a painfully careful flexibility, Judaism embraces the Deuteronomic imperative, v'chai bahem. We are to live with and through the demands and expectations of Judaism. We demonstrate what has always been true. We are a community, we are a family, and as a family, the most commanding sound we will ever hear is the sound of a broken heart. To keep the fire burning in this time of plague, I, Stanley Davids, urge all of us to use electronic connectivity to embrace the lonely, the isolated, the frightened, the confused. I urge us to invite into our virtual Seder not just those who have always been physically present with us on such occasions, but others as well, the stranger, the afflicted, the self-isolated, the quarantined. Okay, I am taking sides in a halachic dispute concerning which I know that I do not possess the necessary academic requirements. And my friends, I am totally comfortable with that. In a letter published this week by the senior faculty of the Hebrew Union College in Jerusalem, an excerpt was quoted from an essay by one of Israel's greatest modern authors, David Grossman. These are some of Grossman's words. They could be our closing prayer for today. Quote, "For many, the plague might become the fateful and formative event in the continuation of their lives. When it fades away at long last, and people come out of their homes following a lengthy closure, new and surprising possibilities might be articulated. Perhaps the tangibility of death and the miracle of being rescued from it will jolt and rattle women and men. Many will lose their loved ones. Many will lose their place of work, their livelihood, their dignity. But when the plague ends, there may also be those who will not wish to return to their former way of living. Possibly a consciousness of life's brevity and fragility will spur men and women to set a new order of priorities, to insist far more on distinguishing the wheat from the chaff, to understand that time, not money, is their most precious resource." Close quote, David Grossman. Shabbat Shalom, my friends. Chag, Pesach, Samayach. Teach new things this year to our children and grandchildren, new things sturdily resting upon our ancient tradition. Shabbat Shalom.